Good. So we are a very small group, so feel free to interrupt me at any point. If you have any questions, don't keep them till the end. Let's make it a bit of an interactive demo. So here on the screen, you see the home screen of our mobile application. This is what is used by the field officers in the field to collect data. So if we go from the top left, you see the eProd logo. Behind this, we have some additional settings. I'll go into that in a minute. Then we see the groups that are assigned to this specific field officer. So in this case, there are 3 groups. Then we see the total farmers that are assigned to this field officer, which are 42. We see the collections that were done by this person. We see inspections. We see an option for synchronization and an option to close the app. So if I go into the eProd logo, you see I have a bit more settings here. So I can look at the language settings, for example, or set up my Bluetooth connection, Bluetooth integration. We have that for scales or for a POS or a printer, for a printer. So if you integrate the app with the Bluetooth scale, for example, you would be able to get the kilos weight directly from the scale instead of typing it manually. You could also integrate with small handheld printers, and this would allow you to print a receipt when you're collecting from the farmer, but also a receipt when you're giving a loan to a farmer and they sign for that. You can print it twice, so once for the farmer and once for your own records. Then you can see all the produce that has been set up. So as Jan mentioned before, all of this is simply configuration. No lines of code are needed. In my case, because I have a dummy database, you see a whole list of different possibilities. For many of the companies that the VINES project works with, this would just be vanilla and perhaps also cocoa, maybe a third produce, but only the produce that they're actually dealing with. You can see a list of the staff members and some specific details. So a phone number, an email, the function of that staff member. And then
Erna, is this the administrator's view?
No, this is the view of this particular field officer. So you see here at the top, it says welcome Almoed van Kasteren. That's the profile I'm using. So any field officer would see this. So for example, if they need to call one of their colleagues and they don't know their phone number or the phone number has changed, they can just look up some basic details of their colleagues.
Okay.
But
and there's an administrator view somewhere else.
Yeah. So the mobile
Jan Willem
app
has the administrator view.
Yeah. So the mobile app is a data entry view. So everybody sees the exact same on the app, has the same rights. The only difference is that I'm now seeing these 3 groups. And one of my colleague field officers will probably see completely different groups. So I only have access to the data that I need to deal with. Okay. But other than that, we have the same rights to create groups, create farmers, do collections, follow up on fields, all those sort of things. And then the different access rights, they come more into play on the desktop app when you're talking about processing collections, preparing payments, sending SMS, all those sort of things.
Okay.
Okay. So I already went into groups. So if you click here, you see a list of groups that are assigned to me. Great. So here you see an overview of my groups. So 3 groups are assigned to me. Now let me go into the second group, Jinja, which is a group located in Uganda, near Kampala. This group has 7 different farmers. So at the overview of the group, I see some basic information of the group. So I see when the group was registered. I can see the GPS location. If there is an arrow next to it, it means I can also update the details. Let me not do that now because I want to keep the Ugandan GPS instead of my GPS in the Netherlands. Then I see the different administrator levels. So I see this group is located in Jinja municipality, central division. I have some more space for more detailed information. Then at the top, I see the farmers that belong to the group, which collections have been done, and if loans have been provided. And if they are available, I can see group surveys. So for example, when you're dealing with group certification, this is where you could do the survey. Now let me first go into the farmers. So here you can see a whole list of farmers. 7 different farmers have a membership in this specific group. I can either click on their profile or I can scan their ID card. Let me show that in a minute. So every farmer can be provided with an ID card with a QR code. And then by clicking on this QR icon, I can scan the farmer. Now in this case, I just have a small group with 7 farmers, but it could be that you have a group with 30, maybe even 40 farmers. Some of them might have very similar names. So Francis Warui, Francis Wara, I don't know. If you want to make sure you have the correct farmer, you could use the ID cards, and every farmer would just have a unique QR code. If you scan that, you're absolutely certain you have the correct farmer. Now, let me show you the profile of Michael.
Hey, Erna, just real quick, how do you deal with data privacy, protection, compliance issues? It's an issue that was just raised as we were thinking about doing our baseline and registering farmers into our database.
Yeah.
You know, if you're collecting any unique identifiers related to that person, you have to get their authorization and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big question. So some of our clients decide not to collect a national ID number, for example. So this field is a national ID. I believe you're not allowed to print a national ID on a card. You're not allowed to issue cards with national ID, but that's for Kenya. I'm not sure how that is in Uganda. This EP ID is the unique identifier in the EPROD database. So I can imagine when you're registering a farmer and that you give them a unique identifier, and if it's mandatory according to the Ugandan law to get their permission, we could simply create a small survey for that. So whenever you register the farmer, you ask them some additional questions and you ask them, am I allowed to record this data from you? I promise not to share it with any third party. I won't do anything with this except identify you during EPROD use, so when I'm buying from you. So all those sort of questions can be defined specifically for you and can be added into a survey. Does that answer your question, Chris?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. That's great, super helpful.
Yeah, good. So then if we stay on Chris's profile, what do we see here at the top? We see Chris received, oh, sorry, Chris, I'm still on Michael's profile. So what do we see here? We see Michael received a loan. He has 1 field and I've done a contact survey for him. So if I look at the contact survey, for example, I see a baseline survey was executed on the 1st of December, 2020. So if I look there, I can look at all the questions that were asked. So I asked Michael, do you purchase input for farming? He responded no. If you would buy, oh, sorry, he responded yes. Where do you buy the inputs? At the Agrovet? Are they accessible? Yes. Are they affordable? No. So just like we loaded in this baseline survey, you could load in a specific set of questions related to data privacy. Now, all of this is XML. It's a very easy scripting language that we use internally to prepare these surveys. We could even teach someone within your team to do that, but usually we upload these surveys on behalf of the client. If you define the questions, it takes us maybe an hour to prepare that survey. And all of that is part of the support and part of the license that you pay for. So no additional coding needed to prepare a specific set of questions. So then what else do we see here? We see that Michael has a field. So let's have a look at his field. He has a vanilla field. This field was planted on the 1st of January in 2015. So about 5 years ago. We see the details of that field. See produce, vanilla. We see the field size. Oh, sorry, I see I made a small mistake. Again, this is configuration. This is not hard-coded. This should have been acres, of course, and not kilograms. I see the origin of the seed, if it comes from a nursery or if it was purchased. And again, from nursery or purchased or a specific supplier of seed, all of that can be configured. So you can set your own variables here. I see the number of seeds planted. I can see a location of that field. And then I see the status, so whether the field is vegetative or productive. And all of these fields, as you can see, have an arrow next to it, which indicates that you can update this again. So for example, productivity. This is a rating that the field officer assigns to the field. For example, it has been dry for quite a long time. So then let me reduce the productivity. So now there's a check here. I made an adjustment to this, and then when I'm done, I can synchronize this to the central database. So that's also good to mention. Everything I've done up to this point is completely offline. I don't need any internet to be able to make any updates or see any profiles.
So productivity is just a subjective assessment of the field officer?
Yeah. Yeah, so with the productivity rating combined with the field size or the seeds planted, and your X factor, so how many kilograms can you get from one tree, or from 1 kilo or 1 acre, you can make your yield estimation.
And maybe I can add something here. So there are ways to make this more advanced. There are like FAO has developed some crop models that can be used to predict, based again on field observations, but also factors like temperature, rain, water balances, things like that. So we could actually integrate it. We have made some start with that once, but it's quite technical. But then you would be able to basically remotely predict the yield. So for now, this is you can just do a yield forecasting, and farmers typically have quite a good idea during the season what how many bags or kilos they can expect.
And you can over time chart production at an individual farmer's field to get a sense of 80% for this farmer because Michael invests in seeds and fertilizer and all of that. His yields are higher than average, so you get a better sense of that over time. Are you able to kind of plot it season over season?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, so we have many reports like that available in the system. So you can, for example, see the daily harvest or the individual harvest for a specific farmer. So that basically means if you record the harvest for today, next week, the week after, throughout the whole season, you would see that in a report, and then we can create a graph that would show the production for one season and then the production for the season before. So you can actually compare that. So there are a lot of different reports like that available, either at individual farmer level, at field level. When you're doing a collection, you also select the actual field that you're harvesting. So it could be that Michael has 2 different vanilla fields and you actually want to see this field of 2 acres, that's what I'm harvesting now. The other field of 4 acres, different location, I'm harvesting from that next week. So you can actually split that data at field level already. And then, of course, you can also generate these reports for whole groups. So if you don't just look at Michael, but if you look at the whole group, you can see if how the group is performing compared to other groups that might not have received a specific training.
Berna, Annette has a quick question.
Yeah.
In monitoring the trends, you can look at yield. Do you have a provision for capturing field photos, like to have an observation of the trends where you started and how you are progressing with the farmers?
I believe you were asking about photos, if we can upload
Yes.
photos. Yeah.
You capture the photos and you keep on monitoring the trend so that at the end of the day you are able to assess whether there is progress, whether there is, say, a difference in yield from where you started and where the farmer is now.
Yeah, that's a good one. We've discussed that a number of times with other clients who also asked about uploading images. We've always shied away from that a little bit because we want to make sure that the system remains light. And it's, of course, a lot of data that you then have to send back and forth if you're uploading pictures. So that's the first reason. Then the second reason, if you actually want to analyze those images and draw conclusions from that, that would mean probably another software that's able to do that, because you don't want to go through pictures of thousands of farmers manually. But technically, of course, it is possible. We can add that to the system, but at the moment and for these specific reasons, we don't have that yet.
And can you, over time, because obviously this is very subjective, can you assess whether how accurate the projections are over time? If you put 80% or 70% and they get 90%, are you able to kind of calculate that over the broad base of farmers?
Yeah.
To refine the assessments and guide the field officers?
Yeah. Yeah, so what you can imagine is if you record the fields consistently for all of your farmers, you can make a yield projection for one farmer, but you can do the same for 1,000 farmers. The same goes for recording the harvest. You can do that for one farmer, but if you do that for your whole database, you have data on that for 1,000 farmers. And then for us, it really doesn't matter if you have a graph for just one farmer or one field, or if you aggregate that and you do that for your whole database. And you can have a line chart predicting this is the yield per month or per week. And then on top of that, you have a line chart with the actuals. And then you can look at the difference between the two.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So if we stick with the fields, here we also see a button follow-ups. So if I click there, I can see one follow-up was done for this field with a template with the name agronomy record keeping. So I see some questions. For example, what is the stage of the crop? Has pest been observed? Has pesticide been applied? Is it recommended by the field officer? So all kinds of questions on the state of the field. Now, based on this, you can of course then also update the productivity rating. So just to compare with the baseline survey I demonstrated earlier, these questions are really targeted at field level. So you have to go into the field first and then you do a follow-up. And the baseline is targeted at the individual farmer. And that could also be a household survey, for example. So at different levels in the system, we have these surveys available. Okay, then lastly, I want to demonstrate the loans. So in this case, I see Michael has a loan for soil test. See, it's rather small on my screen, but you can see it's a loan for 500 shillings. 50% has been repaid. So that actually means that the initial loan was 1,000 shillings and 500 shillings is still outstanding. 50% has been repaid. I believe that's because the type of this loan was pay 50% of the loan every month, and 1 month has now passed. So Michael paid 50% of his loan. This means if next month, when he's bringing another batch of his produce, it will again automatically deduct 50% of the loan, so the outstanding 500 shillings, and the full loan will be repaid. Now here you can see a plus, so that means the field officer could also distribute a loan in the field directly to the farmer. Let me demonstrate that on a different profile. Let me go to Francis.
And that's done, Erna, that's done in cash, it's digital payments, it's mobile money, what's the?
There are different options. So for example, if you give your field officers cash, let me show that here. You can keep track of that under stock accounts. So that means when the field officer comes to the office, you give him 5,000 shillings of cash, for example. And then when he goes into the field, he can actually distribute that as a cash payment. You could do the exact same thing with mobile money. So you send the money to the field officer through mobile money, and then instead of having cash, he has that on his phone. Then here you see, again, this is a dummy database, so I have a lot of different accounts here, but you can see I have an agent account. So this is the balance that me as the field officer has available. Now, in this case, it is cash, but it could also be mobile money. So if you keep this amount in mind, 3,900, then when I go back to a farmer, so within Jinja Group, let me go to Francis. And then I want to give Francis a loan. Then I select the account that I want to deduct it from. So the agent account, you saw on the previous screen that I have 3,900 shillings available. This is in cash, but that could also be my balance on my M-Pesa or other mobile money account. So from there, I want to hand out cash against the loan to the farmer. And then I can select the type of loan. So the previous farmer had a loan for soil testing. In this case, again, this can all be configured in the database. You would, of course, not have a milk replacer loan or a cow insemination. You would set up these loans yourself, or we would do that for you. So let me give an input loan to this farmer. Let me give him 900. Now, if I was integrated with a printer, but unfortunately I don't have that here at my home office. But if I was integrated with a printer, I would be able to print a receipt here. I can actually print it twice, and that's also something that the farmer can then sign that he actually received it. So now you can see a loan for 900 shillings has been added to Francis' account. Now, if we go back to that initial agent account, you see that my balance has now dropped to 3,000. Before it was 3,900. So this is also how the field officer accounts for the money that he's receiving and then distributing to the farmer. Then if you look here under transactions, you can see a transaction has been created, cash for loan from Almoed van Kasteren, because that's the profile I'm linked to. It was deducted from the agent account from Almoed. The amount was 900. Cash has been given, and cash has been given to an external receiver, which in this case was Francis. So I can imagine this is a bit of a lot of information at the same time. But let me do a quick recap. The field officer has an account that's set up here under stocks and accounts. This account can be cash, can be money, can be a bank account, doesn't matter. It's just a way of keeping track of transactions. Then as a company, you assign money into that account, and then the actual transfer of money can either be handing over cash or sending mobile money. When you create that transaction, you can also indicate that in the description. So for example, you can do the payment reference from M-Pesa, you put that in the description. Then the field officer has a specific balance. When he's then visiting a farmer, such as Farmer Francis, you can create a loan, you assign a specific amount, and that amount will then be deducted from the account of the field officer. Any questions on that, Chris?
Seems very straightforward and simple.
Great. Good
How
to hear.
do you track that the service was actually delivered? So if it's for a soil test, how do you know that it's not just I'm going down to buy myself a Coke or something?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. So there are two steps that are built into have some accountability. So the first step is, of course, I would not just open Francis's profile, but I would scan his ID card. So that really ensures that it's going to Francis and not to a random friend. The loan is actually linked to his profile. Then if the purpose of the loan is a soil test, at field level, you can load a survey, for example, and that survey has a specific set of questions for the loan that was provided. And then you can ask him, what was the loan used for? Was it used for a soil test, or was it repurposed for something else? Maybe you needed to buy fertilizer or a Coke, as you said. But of course, the responses are only as good as the farmer wants to give answers to you.
Mhm.
So that's tricky. How to follow up on that? The software can follow up on that through surveys. So simply asking the farmer, but it's difficult to have an actual double check. If you give a loan and at the same time the soil test is done already. So if the field officer is with the farmer doing the soil testing, then the soil test, the bag where you put the soil in could have a barcode. Then when you provide the loan, you would actually scan that barcode. So that ensures to some level that the field officer is actually in the field with a soil bag. And the same could be for seed or for fertilizer. But that only works if the field officer is the one actually providing the product there and then. That wouldn't work if you give the loan to the farmer and then go to the agrovet.
Okay. Okay. I think it's just, as long as the farmer is repaying, the assumption is that they're just using the service.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you set up the loan, you can set up different loan types. So one type could be based on the collection. So for every collection you do, 10% of your payment is deducted, and that goes into repaying the loan, or it's a fixed amount per month. So as long as the farmer is bringing you produce, the loan will be repaid.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So as you can see now, I have two notifications here under sync. I believe that's because I created a loan. And what else did I do? I updated the productivity of a field. So I have two notifications. I need to send some files to the database. So this is actually the only step that I need internet for. Up till this point, everything was done offline. Now let me go into collections. So I did a collection before for Jinja group. So that's the group that Michael, my example farmer, belongs to. So I can have a look at that. I see the different collections that were done, all between 9:38 and 9:41 today. I see the different farmers. So I see Michael, for example, he delivered 46 kilograms. Sorry, I made a mistake in setting the units. That's why it's showing Kenyan shillings. Should have shown kilograms. I see the bag, the traceability of the bag. Now, in this case, we just typed it in manually, but you could also scan a barcode. And then I see the traceability of the field. So this is actually the code, the unique code of a specific vanilla field. If Michael were to have two different fields, this would be very relevant because then I can actually see which specific field it's coming from. Now I can see I didn't print a receipt because of course I don't have a printer here. If I have a printer later and I still see the farmer, or next week I come back to the farmer and he says, I lost my receipt, but I would really like to have one, you can always print that again. So then this collection was synchronized to the desktop, and from there you actually process the payment. Now lastly, what I want to, yeah.
So the way that they receive the information from the system is either through a printed receipt or an SMS. How does it work?
Yeah, so at the moment it's through a printed receipt. We have all that information, of course, in the database. It would be very simple to prepare a template and send an SMS to the farmer. It's actually something we would really like to develop. But of course, there are some costs assigned to sending an SMS to the farmer. For the company, that is. But you could decide to send an SMS to the farmer at the end of every payment period, whether that's weekly or monthly, and tell them this is the number of kilos that you delivered, and this is the amount that we paid. You could even send them an SMS on their outstanding balance, so if they have loans and what their remaining balance is, or the payments that they made that specific month. So all of that data is available in the system. At the moment, you can send that information manually, but we're looking into preparing some templates where you can just select a template for payment confirmation, and then you send the total payment that was made in that specific period.
Okay.
Yeah, but for now, the receipts, that's actually the most important for the farmer, and we've seen that farmers also really like to get something tangible, to get a receipt printed, and they actually keep them. They often have their own records. They transfer the information to their own records, but still they really like to have a receipt.
Okay, yeah, that's good. And what's the cost for like a Bluetooth printer for the field?
A Bluetooth printer, I believe we have some more affordable ones for about 60 euros, maybe 80 euros. We also advertise the POS quite often. So the POS is an Android application with a built-in printer. It's very durable, has a good battery life. I think it can go on for 2 or 3 days, of course, depending on how often you use it. If you're doing inspections all day, the battery will go a bit faster. And that goes for, I believe, 300 euros. That's a bit more expensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Jan Willem, if I can ask for your Chile business, do the field agents have those digital printers?
Yeah, they have the POS.
Just go ahead, Emma.
Sorry. Yeah, they have the POS. So that has a built-in printer. Yeah, and then they print the receipts when they collect from the farmers or when they provide them with loans.
Okay. Okay, great.
Something you want to add, Jan?
No, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Then lastly, before we move to the desktop, I want to demonstrate inspections. So here under inspections, you see the 3 different categories that I mentioned before. So you have inspections at field level, indicated with a small leaf. Then you have the inspections at farmer level and at group level. So 3 different levels in the system. These inspections can be assigned by the administrator in the office to the field officer. So in this case, you can see I have 1 questionnaire assigned, which is a field questionnaire. So if I go into this, I see that's a nursery performance questionnaire, and that needs to be done on the 8th of December. So this overview is basically a task list for the field officer, and you can check off if you've done all of your pending tasks. If it goes beyond the 8th of December, then this is actually outdated, which is currently the case. Sorry, overdue. So from there, from the desktop, you also have access to all of the inspections that have been planned. So then you could actually see which inspections are overdue, which one have been completed in time. So that makes it very easy to follow up on a large group of field officers dealing with an even larger group of farmers. Okay. So I mentioned it before briefly. We just prepared something which is an ID card. It's a farmer ID card. This is quite a nice feature. We developed that for a specific client. They are currently testing this new feature, and it will become available to all of our clients early next year. So with a specific ID card printer, you can print cards for farmers. All of this data comes from eProd, of course. So this is the front of the card, and then at the back of the card you have a logo. Most of the cards is taken up by a QR code, which allows you to scan and find a farmer on the mobile app. So what I can show you is, if I go to a specific farmer here, go to Francis. Here I also see the ID card, the data that would be printed on the ID card, but I can use that to demonstrate how the scanning would work. So it just switches to your camera. Then if I show you, let me switch back to my phone. So it scanned the it scanned the farmer. Sorry, let me do that again. It went too fast. So scanning the farmer, and now it shows me the profile for Francis. So I can do the same thing when I'm collecting or when I want to provide a loan to the farmer. So that way I'm always absolutely certain I have the correct farmer. Okay. Then I would like to move to the desktop and demonstrate a few items from there. So this is the home screen of the desktop application. On the top left, you see File. This is where you maintain your database. So in case I want to make a manual backup, or if I want to update the version I'm using, update the language I'm using, or synchronize data from the field to the phone. So I actually sent something from the phone. So now I can download that, and I see the 2 files were processed. So these were actually the 2 files that I sent earlier from my phone. Then next I see contact system. So this is the module where you manage your whole farmer database. And we have 4 different levels. What I demonstrated so far on the phone was the contact level and the group level. So you have the individual farmer and you have the group the farmer belongs to. On top of that, we have 2 higher levels. We call it organization and hierarchy. We would like to make these labels dynamic, so you can update the names yourself. An organization could be a cooperative, for example. So if I look at organizations, I see I've set up 1 cooperative. This is the Busoga cooperative. And underneath that cooperative, I have 3 different groups. So let me take you back to Jinja group, the same group I demonstrated on the phone. I see the details for that group, the field officer that's linked to it. I see the higher level, so the organization that it belongs to. And then I see the farmers that belong to this group. So again, the same farmers. Here you see Michael, the farmer that we looked at from the profile, from the phone. Now, if all of the farmers have a GPS location, I can look at how they are dispersed over the map. Let me get a topo map. Zoom out a little bit. So here we can see the red icon indicates the location of the group. So this could be a physical collection center, for example. And then around it, we see all the different farmers that belong to it. Now, I also have the option to click on all groups. Then I get all the different locations of the groups in the same map. I don't believe I have another group that's nearby. My other group will be in Kenya. But if you use this, you could, for example, see that there's another group located right here. And that could actually be an indication that Zakaria might need to start delivering to a different collection center because he has to cross the river here and has to go all the way to Jinja. So that way, by visualizing your farmers, you can actually see if it makes sense how they are organized in groups. Okay. So that was groups. Now here again, the surveys. I can do surveys at group level. I can look at the collection data for this specific group. So if I update the date range, I can see 145 kilograms of vanilla was delivered by this group. And that was 7 farmers. All of that has been paid. I can see some remarks for the group. I can see the group was added to the cooperative. Yeah, what else? That's most of the things I can see at group level. Here at the top, I have a number of icons. So one of them is sending an SMS. If all of the farmers have a phone number, which is the case, I can send a message to all the farmers in the group. So for example, collection center is closed next week. Please make sure you deliver this week, something like that. Or we're organizing a training on good agricultural practices. Please make sure you're available, something like that. So these messages can be prepared here. And then, as you can see, dear farmer, we are organizing a training next week. Make the screen a bit smaller. Now I can send the message. I've actually not sent it yet. All I've done is prepare the message and send it to a queue. And that means that one person in the office can prepare all the messages, and then a second person can double check that and actually send the messages. So now I see all of these were created on the 9th of December. This is a message to Abraham. I can easily scroll through it, check if the phone numbers are correct, if the names are correct, if the message is correct. And of course, because you're dealing with money, because it costs money to send a message, you would always like to have a double check and not someone just sending 1,000 messages without someone checking if it's the correct message.
And this is then linked to an SMS phone or a bulk SMS provider account. How is that? Yeah,
exactly. So that's linked to a bulk SMS provider, which is Africa's Talking in our case. They are all over Africa. You, as a company, you would set up your own profile, your own account, and we would assist you with that, of course. And then instead of having a sender with the name eProd, it would be the name of the company. So that would be the sender of the message. And then you can log into their online platform and upload credit to that. And the credit is then used to pay for the SMS, of course. It can be done through a bank transfer, mobile money. Yeah, different options are possible. On that platform, you can also keep track of which messages were actually delivered. Was there a failure? How many have we sent? What is the credit that we still have available? So you can do some analysis on the SMS messages there.
Okay.
Now, what we're currently looking into is building the two-way SMS. So what we're thinking of is at farmer level. So let me go back to Michael. This one. At farmer level, you have something which is called remarks. So I see that the farmer was added to a group. All of this is created automatically. What we would like to do when you have a two-way SMS, you have another type here, which says SMS. And then you could see all the messages that Michael sent to you. So you would have a whole history of this specific farmer and your communication with him.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so I demonstrated the cooperative. Then you go one level lower to the group. At group level, you can send an SMS. That's actually also possible at cooperative level. Now, if we go one level lower, and so we go to the farmer, which we already are. We're on Michael's profile. You see the same details that you saw earlier on the phone. I see Michael is a farmer. He belongs to Jinja Group. He also has a membership for chairperson. So he's the chairperson of that group. That started on the 1st of May. Could be that at one point he's no longer the chairperson. Then you would have an end date here, and then a different farmer would take up that role. You can see the loans that were provided to him. So what I demonstrated on the phone, loan for soil testing of 1,000 shillings was provided, and there is still a remaining balance of 500. Then we see collections. So same thing we saw on the group level, but now you see it at individual farmer level. So you can see the 46 kilos that was delivered by Michael. I can see his fields. So I see the vanilla field, again, the same data as on the phone, just presented slightly different. I see the follow-up that was done by Almut on the 9th of December. Then I can see the trainings that Michael participated in. So in this case, he participated in good agricultural practices training. What else do I see? I can see the weather forecast for Michael. So based on the GPS location, I see a localized weather forecast for the next 7 days. So temperature looks good. Expected rain, solar energy, so some different indicators. Now this can of course also be sent to Michael through SMS. So I can send him the forecast for tomorrow and Friday, just 2 days in the future. And then I can select the indicators that I want to send to him. So I want to send him a summary, precipitation. He might have a solar pump, so I want to send him the solar energy, dew point, all sorts of things. I can still update this message, prepare for planting, for example. I can update the message before I actually send it to Michael. Now again, this is prepared in the queue. So if I go back to SMS message, you see a message has now been added here. And this is the SMS for Michael. We can take some time, maybe that's nice, Chris. I update one of the farmers and give it your phone number, and then I'll send you the message.
Okay.
So let's do that for Michael. What is your phone number, including the country code of Uganda?
It's 2+256
256
782
782
031
031
957.
957. Okay. Now let me quickly delete the message I prepared before.
I haven't memorized my number.
Now we'll send it here. So maybe check again. This is the correct number, right?
This is good. If I can read my handwriting correctly, that's the right number. It's a chance that a 0 could be a 6, but anyway, let's see.
Okay, we'll see if it arrives. So I'll send the message. We send it for Thursday, and then I'll just give you all the different indicators for 1 day. So I click send. Now it's sent to the queue. And then if I actually want to send it, I have to go here, look for the last message. So this is the message to Michael. Now in this case, the sender will be eProd, of course. Now this is also good to mention. The desktop application is also completely offline. The only moment you need internet is when you're sending an SMS message or when you're synchronizing with farmers. But other than that,
Okay.
processing payments, updating farmer profiles, all of that can be done offline.
Okay.
Okay, now let's give it a few
I got
seconds.
it.
You got it, perfect.
Received. All right.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah, that's excellent.
so with this, as Jan mentioned before, we've integrated with an American company, Aware. So again, if this is a feature that you would like to use, you would set up an account with them. And again, we would assist you with that. You get a specific code. You can pay for your account, I don't believe it's that high, and I believe you pay per API call, so every time you send it. But especially compared to the SMS costs, that is very low. So all in all, I think for less than $1 you would send an SMS.
Okay. And how often do people send weather data generally? Is it sort of at the start of the rainy season kind of thing?
Yeah, it really depends, of course, on the produce that the farmer is dealing with, and yeah, only in the season when that's relevant. So I would say at the beginning of the rain season, and usually when you actually want a farmer to take a specific action. So if you want them to prepare their land, that's when you send the weather forecast.
Okay.
Okay, good. I hope I'm not going over time. I have many more things I would like to demonstrate. Maybe check, Chris, how much time do you have remaining?
Maybe like 5 more minutes.
Okay, good.
Annette, I think, has a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead, Annette.
I want to understand more about the data analysis part. How is the system configured? Is it configured in such a way that you can generate simple reports from within the system, or you have to first download somewhere for you to be able to analyze and be able to come up with a report?
Yeah, good one. So let me take the last 5 minutes to demonstrate some things on reporting and specifically production and the actuals. So here, if you go to production, you can see all the fields that have been created. So all the individual farmer fields. Now, if I filter on produce, so let me only look at the vanilla fields. I see all the vanilla fields that were created in my database. So again, if we look at Michael, we see his field. We see a productivity rating of 80 because that was updated from the mobile app. It's a productive field. We see the seeds planted. We see the origin of the field. So this came from an expansion group. So that means all of these fields actually use the same batch of seed. Now, if we then go into the reporting section, we can look at all the active fields. So let's look at the active fields for, let's say, vanilla. Then I have to update this date range. So again, we see the same data. So in this case, I have 7 fields, but it could be that you have many, many more fields. And then this report, by filtering on a specific date range, you can actually see which fields are currently active or if they have been uprooted. Here, I also have some additional filters within the table. So I could say, well, I want to look at all the fields in that period, but I only want to look at the productive fields. So then I actually just get 1. Now, next step that we're actually developing, but that's a feature that will come up in early next year, so in January probably, is a chart functionality. So then next to the results, which currently is just a table form, you would have an additional tab here. And if you select there, you get a chart. And then depending on what report you're running, that would be a line chart or a pie chart or a bar chart, depending on what is relevant. So this part under production, this is all about the fields that have been planted. So at the moment, we're not looking at the actual harvest. So the harvest that would come in here under collection. So then we can look at individually collected amounts, for example. We look at a specific date range. So let me look at the whole month of December. And then only look at vanilla. We run the report. So now I see the 7 different collections that were done. All of these were actually done on the same day. I see the amount that was collected, the percentage that was paid. So in this case, that was 95% because we did some adjustments for quality based on size, based on color, etc. And then we see the traceability code. So we can see that bag 6, 2 different farmers delivered into that same bag. Now,
So you upload the price that you're paying as as sort of the reference price on the day, and then you discount it based on whatever parameters.
Yeah, so if you look at the produce here, and go into vanilla, and check the price list. So at the moment, the price for vanilla is 50 Kenyan shillings per kg. And this price started on the 1st of June of this year and will remain valid until 100 years from now. So if, for example, we're updating the price has increased, for example, I could say the new price is now 55, and that will start from today. Then the system will ask me, do you want to make a backup? Because anything you do with prices and financial transactions, you want to make sure you can always go back if you made a mistake. Now, let me not do it now. It's just a dummy. Okay. Now I have a collection that has not been paid yet. So let me update the date, and then I'll say this starts next week. So then I'm allowed to update the price. Go back. Change standard price. Okay. So now you see the new price for vanilla is 55 shillings, and that price will start on the 15th. So that means any collection I will do on the 15th or after, so that would be as of next week, Tuesday, will automatically get a price per kilogram of 55. Now, I could also say the group Adjumani actually gets a higher price because they supply me with high quality vanilla. Maybe not organic, but it's I know it's always a higher quality. So let me do that on the 16th. So now you can see for Adjumani, there is a new price. So that would be 60 Kenyan shillings. Oh, sorry, I selected Bamo, a different group. Same principle. So that means if I collect for this group, I don't have to set the price myself, but the system will automatically look at the price list and say any farmer that belongs to this group will get a higher price.
Okay.
Now, what I did for the collection that I did on the phone, so the 95%, let me quickly show that here. I generated a report. And I actually paid all of these farmers a 95%. I can see acceptable export quality was 95. And there was a percentage deducted based on the size and the shape and the color. So that was the grading that was done at the factory. And then instead of paying 100%, you pay the farmers 95%. So in this case, if we look at Michael again, Michael delivered 46 kilograms. We're paying 95%, means that we're paying 43.7. The base price is 50 Kenyan shillings per kg. And if you remember, Michael had a loan, so I'm deducting 500 shilling from his base price. And then instead of paying him 2,185, I'm actually paying him 1,685. So as you can see, there are some different options available in the system. Either you do a standardized price for all groups across the board. You can set a specific price for individual groups. And then on top of that, you can work with quality indicators and deduct a certain percentage from the payment. Okay.
Great. Erna, this has been really excellent.
Good.
All right, guys, thanks so much for this. This has been really, really helpful to get a much better sense of the capability of the program.